ఇక్కడ ఉంది సార్, లోపల ఉంది సార్. క్వశ్చన్స్ తీసేయండి, అదొక్కటే ఉంచే. క్వశ్చన్స్ వద్దంటారా ఇంకా వాళ్ళు అడుగు? ఓకే. యా, ఐ వాంట్ దిస్ టు ఇంట్రడ్యూస్. థ్యాంక్స్.
హలో. ఓకేనా నెక్స్ట్ మోహన్
Asking from Bangalore and one from Chennai, sir, from our fraternity. Most of them we have prepared a questionnaire which we already shared. More of IT crowd, sir. IT. Sorry.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Nageshwar Reddy. I am working at the Asian Institute of Gastroenterology. As all of you are aware, this corona pandemic has been unprecedented in the history of the world of the last 100 years. I think every professional, whatever profession you are working in, are affected with this. I think economy, social, health, every part of our mankind is affected with this problem now. At the Asian Institute of Gastroenterology, we have been studying this problem for some time now, carefully analyzing all the data that's come from all over the world. And what we're going to do today in this webinar is to give you, not as doctors but as lay people, to give you information that's available that would be helpful to you, so how you can carry out your future works and what to expect from this epidemic. We are going to cover various aspects of the disease. First give you a brief outline of what the disease is, and then of course we are going to go over to answering some of the questions that you have already sent to us. These questions are going to be moderated by Dr. Satyanarayana Matala, Chairman, Founder, Telangana Facility Management Council.
Thank you, sir.
And Dr. Srinivas Taluka, Director Facilities T-Hub at Hyderabad. The panelists who are going to talk to you are very experienced doctors who have already been involved in this area for some time now. Dr. G.V. Rao is the Director of our surgical team. He is also the Chief of Surgery and minimally invasive surgery. He's been involved in creating many guidelines for how to treat these patients surgically. Dr. Naveen Chandra Reddy is the Medical Director. He's also actually fashioned the way that patients, how they come to the hospital, how they should be looked after, and he'll give you valuable insights into how this, what precautions to take and all. Dr. Vishwanath Jella is the Chief of Pulmonology, Respiratory Medicine, and as you know, this virus affects mainly the lungs. And again, he's got a huge knowledge bank in this area, and he's going to talk to you on all these areas. And of course, finally, we have Dr. Pragati, who's in charge for our infectious disease team. And of course, this is the most important area, how infectious disease like this can be controlled. So what we're going to do now is, we'll start first with Dr. Naveen, who will give a brief introduction to you, and after this we'll carry on with this symposium. Naveen?
Good morning, everybody. I will just give you a very brief outline about what is coronavirus and also what is the COVID-19 disease. We'll start with coronaviruses. Coronaviruses are a large group of viruses which have been in existence for a very long time. They generally cause common cold or flu-like symptoms, but at times they also cause serious epidemics. In the past, they have created two epidemics. One was Middle East respiratory syndrome, and the other one was severe acute respiratory syndrome. So now this particular coronavirus, which is called as SARS-CoV-2, is a new strain. Most likely it has evolved because of the mutation, and it is more virulent and causes more serious disease in people who are very susceptible. It leads to what is called as ARDS, which is adult respiratory distress syndrome, which is a very serious lung condition which leads to respiratory failure and sometimes to death. So coronavirus is supposed to be of a zoonotic origin. Earlier epidemics, MERS was supposed to have arisen from camels, and SARS was from the cats. COVID-19, that is SARS-CoV-2, the identification is not very clear at this point of time, but the suspicion is that Manis pentadactyl, which is an animal, which is possibly the cause for this spread to the human beings. So once it spreads to the human beings, then from human to human transmission occurs by droplet infections. The origin of the viruses is probably bats. The bats inhabit these viruses within their saliva, and from the bats it spreads to the animals, and from the animals it is spreading to the human beings, which is the plausible reason and the origin which happened in Wuhan animal market, from where, following the consumption of some unknown animal, the disease has spread to the human beings. A bioweapon theory is unlikely. Most likely plausible theory is mutation of the coronaviruses spread from the bat to some unknown animal, and from one unknown animal to a human being, and from human to human. This is a general view how the virus looks, and what are the common symptoms of this virus disease. Now I will explain. The incubation period generally is about 1 to 14 days, and milder form of diseases generally mimics flu-like influenza disease. The other common presentations are fever, cough, difficulty in breathing, pain in muscles, fatigue, sometimes vomitings and diarrhea, and also sometimes loss of smell. In serious diseases, it can lead to pneumonia, ARDS, and sometimes bacterial sepsis leading to shock, kidney failure, and sometimes death. The virus which is causing has been given a name as SARS-CoV-2, and the disease is being given a name as COVID-19 because it started in year 19. And this nomenclature is given by WHO. The incidence as of today, if we see, it's more than 1 million population have been infected with this virus worldwide, and about 53,000 and odd deaths have been reported. In India, we have about 2,069 confirmed cases and deaths more than 50. So how do we test this? Is normally we take a throat swab and also a nasal swab. Both these swabs are sent to Gandhi Hospital at this point of time, where they do an RT-PCR based detection of the viral RNA. This is fairly sensitive test, and if it is positive, for confirmation they send to National Institute of Virology at Pune for gene sequencing, which is secondary confirmation. So who should get this test done? So patients presenting with cold, cough, fever, loss of smell or taste, especially if they have had a recent travel history, or if they had come in contact with some people who had travel history or who have been in quarantine, or people who are suspects, are definitely need to be tested. Patients who have respiratory symptoms and radiological imaging showing infiltrates are definite candidates for testing. And all the healthcare workers who are exposed to suspects while treating or positive patients and who have developed some symptoms are definite candidates for the testing. Just to brief a few things about hospitalization, treatment, and the susceptible patients. Most susceptible patients are those patients who have certain comorbid conditions. Those comorbid conditions are like hypertension, heart disease, people who have undergone liver transplant, people who have on immunotherapy, or people who have been on chemotherapy. These are the patients who have general immunity levels very low, and they are easily susceptible for this disease. And also elderly people are very easily susceptible. So the admission criteria for this patients is generally who are elderly, who are developing increasing symptoms of shortness of breath, who develop some radiological images, and who also have some irregularities in the heartbeat, who have hypotension, and if their blood test shows some evidence of reduced blood counts, and if they have an ECG which shows a prolonged PR interval and elevated lactate dehydrogenase. These are the laboratory evidences for admitting the patients. General line of treatment when they are in the hospital is very supportive. There is no specific treatment. Fluid therapy is the first line. Then we give adequate and high nutrition, high flow oxygen, non-invasive ventilation like BiPAP and CPAP, and some patients who are very sick and they may require invasive ventilation and sometimes what is called as ECMO, which is a very advanced form of ventilation and perfusion. Generally, there is no role for antibiotics. Antivirals have not been effective. Herbals or any non-allopathic medications have not found to be effective. At this point of time, the whole treatment is very supportive and symptomatic. The vaccine is not yet arrived, and it may take another 1 year before it can be used for the public. Once a patient is admitted and if patient shows signs of improvement, then the discharge criteria are that absence of fever, reducing cough, respiratory sample test which is again sent to the lab. If it is negative on 2 occasions when it is sent with a 24 hours gap, is the indication for the discharge. Normally all these patients have to be quarantined for a minimum of 1 to 14 days. From the prevention aspect, most important is patients who have some symptoms, they have to go into self-quarantine, which is the best. Second one is washing your hands frequently and social distancing. These are the most important mechanisms which have been advocated for preventions. Avoid touching eyes, nose and mouth. Cover your mouth and nose with your bent elbow or tissues whenever you get sneezing. If you have fever, cough or difficulty in breathing, you need to immediately report to the hospital. And stay informed and take as much information as possible from all the public awareness programs, and then understand the disease properly and report to the healthcare organizations. So continuing with protection, soap and water hand wash is the best method. You have to frequently wash. There is a particular way of washing. There are several methods. First you rub palm to palm. Second is you just interlock your fingers and then rub it. Third one is interlacing. You put your palm over your dorsum and then do it. Then you roll the thumb, that is another method. And then you interlock and then clean your tips, and also you form a cusp and then do the rotational movements on the palm, and finally extending the washing up to the wrist, and then wipe it with a clean and dry tissues and use the same tissue to put off the tap and then dispose the tap. These are the general methods of washing which everybody has to know and then use it. These methods are there in all the websites, so you can check it from there. When do you wash hands? After coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick patients, before, during and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, and after handling animals or animal waste, and also whenever you are touching the surfaces which are suspicious or which are inhabited by the people who are infected. How do you prevent? Continuing on the prevention, the best method of prevention is staying healthy, which will boost your immunity. Exercise is very important, and yoga, probably the Surya Namaskar, which is very simple, is the best method of exercise. People who are exercise freaks, they can do all the weights which will improve the immunity. You can do meditation and also do some healthy cooking at home with lot of fresh vegetables and use lot of fresh fruits. What is important in the prevention is also protect others from getting sick, which is by following a proper respiratory hygiene and also avoiding travel to infected areas. Cleaning and disinfecting surfaces and fomites is very important because it's a droplet spread infection. The droplets can fall on the surfaces and they linger there for long, and the virus can survive for a long time. So disinfecting these surfaces with routine household disinfectants, which are probably based on hypochlorite solutions, are ideal for disinfecting your surfaces. use of mask is controversial. There are different masks. Surgical mask is probably used regularly, and the N95 mask is used in special situations. I'll explain to you in what situations you need to use the mask and where it is not needed. Mask is not needed for people who are staying at home and all of them are healthy and who are doing activities in well ventilated areas and who are not involved in big gatherings. In such cases, there is no need for wearing any mask. People who are at low risk are those people who are staying in high density areas, who are working in very poorly congested indoors, and when they are going into gatherings, such patients are advised to use mask, which is probably a surgical mask. People who are at moderate risk for infection are those who are working in high density population areas and those people who are working or who are associated with contacts or who are associated with suspected COVID disease. All such patients are ideally use N95 mask and also use certain other PPEs. More important is people who are healthcare workers who are involved into invasive procedures where there is a production of aerosol. Such healthcare workers have definitely to be using respirator mask or N95 mask and whole body PPEs. Certain points on workplace exposure. Your workplace should be disinfected well. Regular cleaning should be done, including all the surfaces, especially the keyboards, especially the doorknobs, lifts, and the railings. All the surfaces when you are passed through the office which are coming in contact with your hands are ideally to be disinfected. Hand wash methods I have already told you. That there can be a placard placed in the office. They could be placed at every washing areas, the display, and also run a campaign in your organization showing the techniques how to wash your hands properly, and also provide sanitizers and follow a method that you will never touch your mouth, nose and eyes. Respiratory hygiene, again, while working in your office is very important. Use tissues whenever you get a cough or a sneeze. Use safe disposal boxes for disposing the used tissues. Self-quarantine yourself if you have symptoms and get tested if there is any doubt. Social distance is very important. Please try to stay home. Stay 2 meters away when you are talking to somebody unknown. Avoid unnecessary travels and avoid unnecessary meetings. And social etiquette is very important. No shaking hands, no sharing, and not getting in close contact with foreigners. Officially, the organization can provide good ventilated areas for the employees. They can provide good air conditioning with a proper HVAC system where there is fresh air exchanges which are more than 6 to 10 per daily, and provide good sanitizers and masks. Maintain visitors policy, avoid any unnecessary visits, and keep a record of all the visitors and suspects, because when we have to track them back, then it will be useful. And as much as possible, reduce the visitors to the organization. Screening desk has to be established at every organization which can do a thermoscan of the people and also take a brief history if they have any cold, cough or flu-like symptoms. If they find such people, they can quarantine them at home or send them to a healthcare organization for testing. So there is a lockdown which is not a lockout. So in lockdown is very useful for all the people and the prevention of the spread. So you please stay back at home and support the company from home by doing work from home if your company permits. Prepare yourself for a salary cuts in future. Plan your expenses and payouts. Government support is expected through some moratoriums for EMIs, which may not be sufficient, so you will have to balance your accounts. Social distance means physical distance. So stay at home and be connected to your office through net. You can be connected with friends. You can also be connected with relatives, but don't go into physical proximity with more people. Essentials are do a safe shopping. Avoid shopping unless it is very essential for the groceries or medications. Avoid using public transport. In case you use public transport, you follow the respiratory hygiene, which I have already told you, using the tissues and disposing them properly. Avoid touching unnecessary surfaces in the transport areas. Avoid carpooling. Limit your travel and use your own car also very limitedly. And when you use, please don't pack the car with many people. Limited people should be traveling in the car, and also disinfect your car, especially from the dashboards and the handles and the doorknobs. And respect the lockdown and curfew and stay home. Real-time public health communication, which is already being done aggressively by the government. Lockdown is a big communication and protective tool. Just by saying lockdown, it communicates to the entire country that there is something serious and they have to take protection and they have to stay back at home. Other things which government has done is telephone ringtones, media and newspaper notifications. Government is doing a regular surveillance across the country and reporting wherever there are positive cases regularly, and they are available on all the medias which people can monitor. Even you can also know who is the nearest infected patients at this point of time. And internal organization communication, all the companies can have internal communication through messages, WhatsApp, websites, and then develop awareness among their own employees. Postpone as much as possible all the social events, avoid self-medication, contact healthcare organization whenever you're in need, and seek if possible online consultations, which is widely available, and AAG hospitals have 3 platforms, MFine, Grid Health and Practo. We are all available online, so you can seek consultation from us. I expect that you all be taking care well and then don't lead to a situation like this. This is a picture which is in China, where they have converted the entire stadium into an hospital and then have treated. I am expecting that this will not happen in India, and we will protect ourselves safely and then will prevent the spread of the disease. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Can I just start?
On behalf of the healthcare workers at Asian Institute of Gastroenterology and AAG hospitals, we welcome you all to this Telangana Facility Management Council. In fact, we are very happy to be associated with this. The healthcare workers have been doing yeoman service. They have not only been taking care of the patients, caring the patients, the healthcare workers are updating themselves continuously, and we at the AAG hospitals, along with the other healthcare workers and the administrative staff, are continuously updating, training all the healthcare workers for any anticipated COVID crisis that can arise in the next few weeks. We are also very thankful to the healthcare workers who have been working 24/7 at our place. The last 2 weeks of lockdown has shown us a lot of things that can happen. The best part is we now know how to socially distance ourselves, at the same time socially connect ourselves to the rest of the world, updating ourselves and also keeping ourselves abreast with what is happening across the globe, so that what has happened in some part of the world should not happen in our part of the world. We have also been the Asian Institute of Gastroenterology and AAG hospitals have been continuously doing these webinars to convey some messages across the world and across the industry as to how the people have to manage themselves during this period of crisis. So this has been a very useful thing, and AAG Hospital being in the high hub of Hyderabad, we are very thankful to the Telangana Facility Management Council and the members of it for allowing us to be part of this, to convey the messages that we have to all the IT professionals working in this part of the city. Actually, Dr. Naveen has given you all the points that are related to COVID virus, but basically all the questions that are related to the origin, the transmission, how to take prevention of all this depend. We should understand how this virus starts, how this virus moves, how this virus multiplies, and how this virus stays. The entire concept, if you understand this concept as to how this virus is originated, how it gets transmitted, how long it stays in the person, how long it stays in the surfaces, I think we are all aware of how to take care of this virus and how to eradicate this virus. And all the aspects that have been covered, all the aspects that everybody has been talking about, are all these related to the viral movement, viral multiplication, and viral eradication. I think we'll take the questions on the medical side and also try to see how best we can help you eradicate this and then get over this COVID crisis. We have a beautiful panel, as Dr. Reddy has already told you. We have Dr. Vishwanath with us, Dr. Pulmonologist. The Naveen has, absolutely is stuck on the nail to tell you what are all the things that you need, how to get over this crisis, what are the precautions to be taken. If any of the questions are there from the council, actually we'll be very glad to take these questions. Thank you so much once again for associating, for allowing us to get associated with this council, and I hope this will be very useful to the community at large. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's start. Sir, do you want me to?
No, you can sit and talk.
I can sit and talk. Very good afternoon. It's immense pleasure to be at AJ Hospital today. On behalf of TFMC, Telangana Facilities Management Council, we are a group of fraternity with around 1,000 companies and a lot of facilities heads, and then we have a lot of the center heads and a part of this group. First of all, I would like to heartfelt thanks to the complete AAJ team. I would special thanks to Dr. Nagesh Reddy Garu, Chairman and Managing Director, and special thanks to GV Rao sir, Dr. GV Rao Garu. Naveen Chandra Reddy Garu, thank you so much sir for your valuable information which you passed. I'd also like to thank Vishwanath Garu and Pragati Garu, Dr. Pragati Garu. Ma'am, it's an immense pleasure to be part of this panel discussion today. We've been interacting, we've been seeing the crisis, what's happening for the last 1 month or so, and it happened 2 months back in China. I'm sure a lot of information is being passed by the government and by the doctors. I mean, you are doing fabulous job, ma'am. I think today the whole IT or the citizens sitting at home are safe because of the unseen God is the doctor. I'm very thankful, heartfelt thanks on behalf of a fraternity. Today, the main objective of, there are some questions which are touch-based. There are a lot of information which is already given by Sir Dr. Naveen Chandra Reddy Garu on how the PPE should be used and what exactly, why should you really feel panic, what are the surfaces, and I've been watching your webinar last webinar, Sir Vishwanath Garu. I think you were talking about how the process are. So we would like to ask you typical questions like from a corporate perspective, what exactly we need to take, and when the shutdown is going to be relieved shortly in next 15 days, or what as per the government, the governance of the notification of the government. So once we open the offices, there are a lot of assumptions from the fraternity that how do, sir was rightly telling that once the offices is opened, you do a sanitization, cleaning process has to be increased. Sir, is that we all need to do a sanitization of the complete office of the complete workstation area or your cafeteria, or particularly the conference rooms, because we'll be talking about large crowd of people, 1,000 workstation offices. There are 1 million square feet offices are built across India, and specific to Hyderabad. So do you recommend something that it's a suggestion or an advice from your end is, do I need to a fumigation or a sanitization, or any recommendation from doctors is something we are looking forward on this?
So any company, all the IT companies I believe are kept very spick and span and very clean.
Correct.
So as it is, I think they are most well maintained organizations if you look at other companies in the city. So from that sense, probably all your units are well protected from protocols which are well laid out, and you follow all the disinfection and sanitization methods.
Yes.
And also, I strongly believe that you have perfect air conditioning systems. The HVAC systems are very well planned and kept with good air exchanges and return airs and fresh airs. So from that sense, if your organization is well equipped, then probably the only few things which you have to take is from the corona perspective. Otherwise, general precautions you are probably always taking already.
True, doctor.
So from the disease perspective, once the lockdown opens, most likely by April 15, we should not think that lockdown is gone, is disease gone. Correct. It's not that. Disease will not disappear overnight. I think the disease will persist for some more time to come, and it will slowly, the curve will come down and will slowly fade out. That is how any viral diseases will go away. It is not a single day vanishing type of disease.
Correct.
So keeping that in mind, you have to take precautions, because once the office is open, you have to continue to make sure that the number of employees which you want them to come and do on-site work should be less. Correct. Still, if you can organize work from home for some more time until we are all confident that it is not spreading in the community, is advisable. So, but if you want certain people to come, they have to come on lesser numbers, so that there is a social distance maintained within the organization. Because we see the IT employees work very close seating with the multiple systems around.
True.
And that should be avoided, and probably you have to skip certain workstations in between and place your employees at a distance, and then you can still continue to work. That is one thing, maintaining a social distance. Second one is, now that these employees are coming from outside, there is a possibility that they would have touched while traveling, or they would have gone to some other places where they would have contacted the surfaces, which can allow the spread of the viruses unknowingly.
Okay.
So they may bring that and then also leave that on the surfaces which they touch while entering in, while working, and while leaving.
Correct.
So it's a good precaution to increase the disinfection processes, especially wherever the employees are coming into contact with.
Right.
Like most likely the doorknobs, the railings, the lift buttons, and their surfaces, the keyboards, all these areas they commonly use and they come into touch with.
Right.
So if you have a special task force created which can attend to cleaning of these special areas, it will go a long way, because the spread is from contact.
Correct.
That is very, very important, that you have a good newly trained housekeeping or a task force which is knowledgeable about this cleaning methods, and they do the disinfection process. And this is supervised by your facility managers or your housekeeping managers very closely.
Sure.
It doesn't spread as much from the food, so your canteens and your food areas, which are probably all very well maintained and very hygienic already. So there also again the contact principles have to be taken. Make sure that they don't disseminate the infection on the surfaces and somebody else picks it up.
Correct.
So that is a single most principle. And the employees, if they, after they come in, if they have touched some surface outside, if you teach them to wash their hands and then get back to your work, it will reduce it significantly. Sometimes washing may become very cumbersome, though actually soap and water washing is the best. Provide some good alcohol-based disinfectors for them to easily just rub their hands and then start working.
True.
So these kind of precautions, if you can train them and teach them, they will go a long way, I think, in disinfecting your organization from virus entering into your organization.
Your offices, yeah.
Into the offices.
So you say in terms of entry part, before this COVID came in, we have done a lot of everybody arrangements to make our place safe zone. So can you all hear me? We have enhanced the frequency of housekeeping. We have also done the sanitation.
I can hear you. How are you, sir?
Yes, doing fine, Badri. Thank you so much. I think it's a lot of
all the common places, wherever it is, all the touch point areas. But even that, so do you suggest any kind of protocols which we need to follow at the entry?
Very important. Very most important protocol is screening at the entry. That is the key, because many people will have milder symptoms. They'll think, it's okay, I can just get into the office.
Correct.
So they may not give that kind of seriousness to their milder symptoms, because most of the people who have coronavirus also have very mild symptoms. So at the entry point, and people who are having mild temperatures, they may even ignore it. They may just walk in. So having a screening desk at the entry points, reduce the number of entries so that you have a control on your employees entering into the organization. And at those restricted entry points, have a screening desk with people who are manned with certain equipments like a thermoscan or an IR scan which we use, which can immediately tell us if they have temperature or not. If they have temperature, then you divert them into another segregated clinic type setup where you discuss, counsel them, and then attach them to a healthcare organization. Second thing is, many people may not have temperature, but they may have certain symptoms. So if you have a person who is trained, he need not be a healthcare worker. Simple questionnaire you can prepare and then keep it there, which that person will use to put those questions to the individual. Like whether you have any cold, whether you have cough, whether you have sore throat, whether you have any body pains, which are linked to the viral infections. If you can put those questions, and if any of these questions are coming positive, then it's best that you will allow them, not allow them into the organization. Take them to a respectable place where you can advise them to either self-quarantine, go home and rest, and then come after the complete recovery. Also give an advice if you are associated with a healthcare organization to go. Go, especially, I'll just finish. Go there and then get a consultation done.
Sir.
The last point important is the people who are at the entry, who are screening these employees should wear protective gear. They should have a good N95 mask, and if possible also they should wear a gloves, and then they should wear a gown and be seated there, so that if somebody suddenly coughs also, it doesn't splash on that. Correct. So these are the protection methods which you should take at the entry point.
Sir, coming to the entry point again, suppose if I have a foreign visitor, so do you recommend any kind of a protocols which we need to follow? Because many companies, we keep getting the visitors from foreign countries, or also people, our own employees, they go out and then come back to our office. So do you suggest any kind of a protocol? Because right now we have given 14 days quarantine time to all our employees, but at the same time, is there any other in terms of recommendations from your side?
So, as you all know, that now we have sealed our borders for some time now.
Right, sir.
So the travelers who are coming recently has come down significantly, who are coming from abroad, nor anybody is going from here. But there have been people who have come from abroad in significant numbers before lockdown and before we stopped the flights and ships. So those people who have already come in, they may be in incubation period. Normally it is about 1 to 14 days. Sometimes it can be extended because a lot of it is still in the research. We are not very sure about anything. But generally it is about 14 days. If people who have visited this country and already 14 days or 2 to 3 weeks has passed, probably they are safer and they could be allowed, provided again once they have come to India and they have not developed any symptoms, or their family has not developed any symptoms, their family members who have accompanied them from the foreign countries, they are also not have any symptoms, and they have not come in contacts with anybody else who had the symptoms. All this history is very important for foreign visitors before you allow them in. By and large, I think if their family has been not developed any symptoms and they had been at home for more than 15 days, probably they are safer, but still you have to take a detailed history from them and then only allow them. And also when such foreigners come in, generally try to avoid if there are any meetings to be held with them in a large crowd. So generally you invite some foreigners and they come and give lectures, or they give and then take a big meetings. Such things, even if they are beyond their quarantine, beyond their incubation period, better to avoid for an extra safety.
Actually, the question, Doctor, thanks so much, Doctor. I think the only worry today we are talking about once the lockdown is relaxed. Now we are saying 14 days quarantine, and people who travel directly, they come to office. So as you said, the reception will have all your thermal screening, and then you have your own declaration form. So if they pass through all this barrier channels and then they come to the office. So in case somebody in the office, actually, after getting into the office, after working 8 hours, somebody feels like, they're really feeling, sick in terms of your throat pain or some symptomatic things which we discussed. What exactly as an as an hospital, what support can this IT expect? Can we do an SOS or any emergencies where we can call? I'm sure that typically the large circle which is there in the IT is, the AAG hospital is located very close by to all this IT hub. So some support, some tips from us, from the doctors will help us, like, it's more of a panic. I'm sure it's not be a COVID case though. But we will be in a suspicion that somebody is sneezing, somebody is coughing. So something like, do we need to follow some protocol and bring them directly to the hospital? And you said there's an online thing also, like Practo and other stuff. So what exactly?
Just tell one more question and I'll pass on to Dr. Vishwanath to answer on the symptomatology.
Sure, sure.
Even if you have done a thorough screening, you have taken a declaration, history, everything, still the employee who has stepped in, one of them could be in incubation period close to developing symptoms within a short period, and they would not have yet developed.
Correct.
There are certain studies which are saying that people who are very close to finishing the incubation period or who are about to develop symptoms are also infective. So as you said, they may develop while working in the hospital, they may start developing the symptoms. Okay. So it's very important. That's the reason why I've told it's very important whether they are screened or not, whether they have been thoroughly taken history and then you let inside also. they have to follow all the precautions of hand wash, avoiding the contacts, respiratory hygiene. All of them are very important, and they feel any symptoms which Dr. Vishwanath will explain, immediately report to your organization and then take necessary precautions. That's very, very important.
Sure.
Dr. Vishwanath, you want to answer on the symptomatology?
To add a couple of points to what Dr. Naveen has already told, one thing is providing disinfectant at the entry to all the people who come into this.
Okay, sir.
So that they might have disinfected their hands, and even if they touch other surfaces, the virus will not spread. That is one thing.
Correct.
And the second thing is, as Sir has told, fever can be absent in almost 50% of the patients. So even if you do a thermal screening, you might miss till 50% of the patients with absence of fever, or some people might have taken paracetamol and come to the organization. So these are the certain areas where this thermal screening can come negative. And if in case after everything, if the patient, if a person develops symptoms, one thing is you should be ready with provision for face masks to be given to these people, because this face mask can prevent the spillage of the droplets into the atmosphere.
Correct.
That is the most important thing. And they should also be given adequate training on the cough etiquette and respiratory etiquette actually. Whenever if a person is having cough or cold, he should be coughing or sneezing into the folded elbow. Correct. Rather than into the hand or into the kerchief or something. We know very well that if you cough into the hand, and with the same hand if you touch different surfaces, and again that virus tends to stay in the other surfaces and spreads to other people. Respiratory etiquette and cough hygiene have to be emphasized to the people, and then masks have to be provided, as I have told you.
Sir, is it the mask, initially you feel that the employees are free to, I mean, they all, is a mandatory that everybody should wear a mask and come to the office, or is only the symptomatic patients or symptomatic people, we ensure that we'll say mandate to wear a mask? Is it like we need to differentiate that at this point of time, or we just say that anybody can come to the office without a mask? So just it's a generic question, so I might make sense or not.
As I've explained in my presentation, there are specific situations wherein you should use mask.
Sir.
People who are at home and who are all healthy and no one is symptomatic, no one has been on quarantine or no one had any contacts, they don't have to use. And if they are working in well ventilated areas and which are not completely claustrophobic indoors, they don't have to wear.
Sure.
But the employee, while traveling, if he is traveling using a public transport, then there is a high possibility that somebody may suddenly cough. So it is useful if they can wear a mask. That is very, very important. And even after coming to the office also, it's not absolute contraindication to wear a mask. It is only useful, because if you wear a mask and by accident if somebody coughs and then puts out the droplets, in certain situations we have seen the droplets spreading even up to few meters. So there is also a controversy whether it is only a droplet or airborne also. Airborne means sometimes it can stay in the air and it can pass to longer distance, and people who walk through that distance can get the infection. So that controversy is also there. So in that situation, it is always advisable, if there is a mask, it is an extra safety only. It is not a contraindication. And when they cough, like what Vishwanath said, please provide them with liberal tissues wherever possible, and also tissue disposing waste bins. So they can use liberal tissues whenever they get a cough, and then dispose the tissues immediately, which is the best method for cough etiquette. Sure.
I think it's more towards, especially in a workstation area, I think the doctors are recommending us to give more of the sanitizers in specific places in your workstation area. Like, every 10 workstations you can have a bottle of sanitizers, and then tissues with abundant numbers of tissues, which will help us, as Sir was also telling about the workstation count, and the density has to be decreased. Let's say a workstation has 5 people sitting, I think we can minimize to 3-4 people, as Dr. Naveen Sir was telling. I think these are the couple of very, very important points when we are really starting our offices. The density matters a lot. So I think, as the doctors were also recommending us on the social distancing, which also can be applicable in your cafeterias. If your 100-seater cafeteria can be made into a 30 or 40-seater within a stipulated time of your lunch. So that also can be one of the best practices which the doctors are also been advising us. Srini, you were telling something.
Along with the associates, we also have the support staff who are coming from a different background, like they may not have exposed to the hygiene part. So what kind of recommendations would you like to give it to them, or would you suggest us to continue any kind of trainings to them? Because they are the people who do not have these kind of a sophisticated equipments to understand and maintain the social distance kind of a thing. So what recommendations?
I think Srini, Dr. Sir was mentioning a while ago, which sir, correct me, sir. You're saying that we need to train marshals. He was trying to, doctor was telling to say that we need to train marshals who are good at these hygiene factors. Let's say a reception area, we need to train few people. They not be any medical experts, but that's what doctor was mentioning a while, and doctor can add, Vishnath sir and Naveen sir can add to the point.
At the same time, is there any special trainings you suggest for our support staff? For example,
that would be a good thing.
Or people who are coming from different communities.
Yeah, it's again it comes to the point of training. Mostly the support services people, they are probably not well educated, and they will not be aware of self protection and prevention methods.
Yeah.
So you need to have a training unit in your organization which has to be quickly in this lockdown period. You can plan and position certain important intelligent people who will capture certain things from the net and then train themselves so that they become the trainers. That you have to do in next 10 days. And once they know what to teach and what to explain to the people, they should take the people in groups and then start training them. Especially the support services, their cleanliness, their dress, many people may not even change and they will come as it is to do the cleaning and etc. So those issues have to be trained to them, and they need to be trained how to protect themselves and also prevent the infection spreading to the others, which I have already mentioned in my presentation. So those people who are coming for the cleaning, while the cleaning they also have to have their protective gears on, because whenever they clean, there is a possibility that whatever has settled down on the surfaces, they can rise as aerosols, and these cleaning people, they can inhale them and they get infected unknowingly. They're not exposed to a person who has symptoms, but just from the contacts they develop. So they need to be protected well. They need to be wearing good masks and then undertaking the cleaning processes. And also they should be trained to wear certain gloves, because they should not touch, and they don't know how to protect themselves. If they happen to touch their nose, their mouth or eyes, it will immediately spread from the surface to their hands, to their mucous membranes and internalize. So to prevent that, better to give them some good sturdy masks and gloves for them while they do the cleaning.
Yeah, at the same time, I think we should also train them on how to handle the trash, because once all these gloves and masks are
I think Pragati will speak to you very well on how do you dispose and then how do you make the trash.
Sir, I will introduce them to the panel. Can I do that? Hi, hello, Mr. Badri. Badri, can you hear us? We are not able to hear your voice, Badri.
Can you hear us? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better, Badri. Hi, very good afternoon, Badri. Welcome to the panel, and thanks to AAG for the complete doctors team who've been here welcoming us, the fraternity. I think he's there.
Thank you so much for having me.
But he is representing from Bangalore. He is part of TFMC, and then he's been front-ending a lot of initiatives in Bangalore with his good number of companies. Thanks, Badri, for joining. I'm sure that you'll take a lot of information from the doctors today onto the panel, and you'll be cascading this information within our FM fraternity in Bangalore and other parts of India. Thank you so much. And I would also like to welcome Mr. Sharfuddin, who heads Cognizant Technologies as EHS head. He heads EHS. Yeah, good afternoon, Shai, for joining. And we are privileged to see you here. And also thank you for joining. I think we have a few questions which we will also come back to you on this. Where Srini was asking a few queries on how do we do it. So we'll come back to you with Badri and Sharfuddin. So we'll join you shortly.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, so one is the disposal part, and the second one is, ma'am, do you recommend any special chemicals for us to use when we are cleaning the facilities?
Okay. So first, coming to the disposal of waste, generally waste is classified as infectious waste and non-infectious waste. I think IT companies usually deal with only the non-infectious waste generally, which goes into the green bins, and that goes to the municipalities, GHMC. But in certain conditions like this, the infectious waste needs to be disposed in into special bins, like whenever we use the PPE here, like the gloves and mask, and they're supposed to be contaminated after use. So gloves should be going into biomedical waste guidelines have given some color codes for disposing these things. So they are the red colored bins, yellow color bins, blue and white. This is what we use in hospitals.
Correct.
But in IT companies and other industries, it's only mainly the red color bins and yellow color bins are the ones which come in use. So all the masks and all should be disposed of into the yellow color bins, and gloves would go to the red color bins. So these guidelines have to be followed, because all these are expected to be contaminated. When we are using them, we never know who is suspect. So if we follow these guidelines, that should be okay. These should be tagged at the point of use itself and labeled, and then separately sent to the biomedical waste.
At the same time, I wanted to ask you in terms of the temperature. So what is the standard set temperature which we need to maintain to avoid this kind of virus spread in the office?
So far there is no scientific evidence to say that what temperature can affect the virus, though there is a hope that temperatures above 27 degrees and all can halt the virus, but still we are seeing in countries like the Middle East countries or Australia where the cases are increasing in spite of high temperatures. So as of now we don't have much evidence on that.
Just to add to her, it's more than temperature. I think it is the air exchanges which is very important. When you are dealing with air conditioners, even the temperature could be adjusted as per the needs, because it's going to be summer now. But more important is how many fresh air exchanges you have, and how is the return air going, and whether they are connecting to different areas or not. That is the most important thing, I think. And another point to add is this waste disposable in hospitals is well laid out. We have different color bins and all. So in this COVID-19 disease situation, I think you should adapt some of those principles of having certain color bins when people who are using tissues, the mask and gloves, they have to be segregated separately. Please have that training internally, and have that segregation system linked up with certain organizations which pick up those infectious materials. All IT companies, I think, should develop this small program internally.
In hospitals.
In fact, the whole idea of interacting with you is to understand what is the standard practice, because so far we are doing is the standard practice which we follow in all IT companies or in ITES companies, that in general terms, but now the situation is different. So what is that extra which we need to do?
So what Dr. was mentioning.
I think Pragati, can you explain the color codes which they can use for the waste disposal? And,
as I already mentioned, the mask will be going into the yellow bins, and any gloves and all used, they go to the red colored bins. So these are usually collected from hospitals by certain common biomedical waste treatment facilities whom we tie up with. So maybe you would have to make such arrangements, or
Correct.
So they do
that's where I think already the hospitals have that bio-waste. So similarly, I think we will do a connect with the same vendors within the hospitals who are doing it. So because we have to implement the same process across organization today, because of your masks or sanitizers.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, masks or your gloves. We'll certainly do that.
So there is a question from the panel.
Yeah, Shai, we want to ask something. We'll start with you.
Yeah, first of all, thanks team. I think good afternoon everybody. I was listening to this, the disposal of the waste. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Shai.
So I just wanted to add, I think there's a wonderful information that to just make this panel and this the entire esteemed audience aware, IT companies also have to have to follow the biomedical waste rules handling bill 2016, which is coming to law from 2016 onwards. Even a single bedded facility is also supposed to have a direct contact authorized biomedical waste disposal by. We all started that to have a direct consent. Earlier, through our hospital partner, we used to dispose. Now it is mandatory for us to have a BMW consent and then dispose it, number one. Number two, all our IT companies which are having the medical health centers or occupational health centers are already having been tied up with any of the hospitals, like any of them, which we are having a biomedical waste disposal mechanism in place already, and we are disposing it through responsibly. Whatever our injectables, and our whatever the secretions which are there happening in the medical health center. So add to that, the present what the doctor has said very clearly, we need to also have this mechanism in place where the surgical mask which we are wearing, and then the gloves which we need to dispose, as the doctor rightly said, the yellow bin and to the red bin. So thank you. That's the thing I just wanted to add. We are having the system in place. Those small companies which we are not having, or we are not having MSC, what doctor said, you need to establish this system. Thank you.
No, I think it's very important point, Chef. Thank you so much. Now it's a time to emphasize or make it mandatory on the processes of this hygiene. As this is a very good point which we were talking internally within our FM community. But when it comes from the doctors, I'm sure I think that's a time to really implement this with immediate effect across India with different organizations. So Badri, do you have any question, Badri, from Bangalore, and any perspective of did you find any questions from your fraternity of Bangalore and Hyderabad? If you have something, please.
Yes, I had a couple of one. I think firstly, thank you everybody. Doctors were amazing. They've been patiently answering all the queries. I mean, quick question that I had is, so it's the day 22, which is more critical now. 21 days of epidemic, and then after that, is there a basic, simple do's and don'ts that we need to follow? That will help us, the entire community, because we are not doctors, we are not the right persons to tell what to do, what not to do. But having doctors in the forum will definitely help us. What are the things, that simple do's and don'ts that we need to follow post the day 22?
So the first thing is, it is not a 3-week or a 4-week epidemic. We should understand that this disease, when it will end and when it will subside, is a real dilemma which we are all facing. In some countries it can subside and again research. So we are not definitive about the end of the virus and when it ends. So all the governments, all the countries are now trying to flatten the curve as much as possible. We don't want the incidence to rise very rapidly. We are trying to flatten the curve, and for which different measures have been already put in place by various governments. So the lockdown has been a significant step taken by many countries, which will obviously cannot sustain for a long time. So at some point they will have to lift it. Once it's lifted, it doesn't mean that the epidemic ends. So the epidemic can continue, and it can show continue to weaken, but it can show incidences here and there. So we learned a lot of precautions during this period. So we have to continue those precautions. There is no change in do's and don'ts specific post lifting of the lockdown or post reduction of the incidence. For some time to come, all the basic precautions like respiratory hygiene, the contact principles, and protecting ourselves, and then cleaning, disinfection, social distancing, all these things, I think they have to be employed and continued for a long time to come.
Correct.
Maybe I am expecting at least 6 months probably. We will all have to be very careful about doing, and also we will watch, and there is a good informative and communication systems where we know what is the incidence, where is the incidence, how it has flattened, how it has weakened, all that we will be all aware. Correct. Based on that we will make some changes, but by and large the same precautions which we are taking now have to be adhered to.
I think more of a, Badri, I think Sir was rightly mentioning, we all need to come onto one platform and start sharing the data, the information that what are the new COVID best practices handbook. I think that's the need of the hour for the entire fraternity, because this is redefined now. It's a new thing for everybody, every industry has to face this challenge.
Yeah, at the same time,
Yeah, rightly said, Satya, rightly said. Sir, I think just to add on this one more question from the facility perspective, since we maintain the temperature inside the facilities at 23-24 degree, is there any recommendation from the fraternity, from the doctors' fraternity, that we need to rise the temperature or lower the temperature so that we don't see another attack from the environment, AC environment? Is there any suggestions or thoughts from your end?
As I already mentioned that the temperatures suitable for the comfort of the people has to be maintained depending upon the outside temperatures. There is no doubt about that. There is no change because there is no specific role of temperature which is either increasing the virus or reducing the virus. There is no evidence in favor of that. So what is comfortable and what is being maintained right now for the comfort of the people has to be maintained. All I'm talking about is just checking your HVAC systems and how they have been maintaining and how they have been evacuating. That is very, very important, how many air exchanges are there. Suppose if you have a meeting hall where there is a large gathering is going to happen, and if that is connected to a general work area where a lot of workstations are there, if somebody has an infection here and then he delivers some droplets into the air, there is a good possibility that it could be picked up through the return airs and then it is delivered elsewhere. Correct. So this system, you have to go back and then check your air conditioning system thoroughly, sit with the air conditioning technicians and then see whether they are very well ventilated, whether the exchanges are well or not. That is the most important point. So that technically you have to look at that and then see.
So doctor, I have a question, like suppose I don't
Thank
want
you, sir. I have a subsequent question to this. Can I ask now?
Yeah.
Question.
You should ask because
Please.
You know, your Zoom is going to expire.
Please go ahead.
Another 5 minutes, so I think you can ask
quickly. So is there any treatment which you? I mean, there is an UV treatment which people are talking about as a precautionary measure before the AHU unit. That is one. Can we start using any such technology? Or because bifurcation of an AHU from a conference room to the workstation is very difficult practically, because typically AHU is covering most of the areas, including conference room. So, what is the precaution? Is there any way we can control at the entry of the AHU? Though while we are increasing the airflow or the fresh air, the air exchange rates, is there any recommendation which you have here?
No, I'm not advising any change in your HVAC system and AHUs, which is not feasible at all. So like in our hospitals, when we create them, we have isolation rooms which have individual AHUs. So that is how we maintain here, and that is required for the patients who are really suspect or a positive patients. That kind of extraordinary precautions I'm not advising. All I'm saying is whether your system has good air exchanges or not, which is always changeable by the air conditioning technicians. That's all you have to see, and follow the regular principles of not crowding a room and screening all the people who are coming in, and also self-awareness and self-quarantine. These are the things more important than changing your whole air conditioning system.
So adding to your point and Shaifuddin point, so what I say, we might not really maintain a quarantine with a special AHU, I'm sure, but a specific room of the capacity of the organization, at least one conference room or a room where, anyhow we are already maintaining that sick rooms or wellness rooms in any organization. So, I mean, there's a best practices concerned, people can second me, that every organization should have a space where somebody feels a suspect. I think that should be very close to your reception area, and that can be a right place instead of you putting into a complete AHU where thousands of people, hundreds of people work. I think one place which is dedicated a AHU, like we do our cassette units in our wellness room. I'm sure most of the wellness rooms are not connected to AHUs. Right. Okay. So I'm sure we already have this provision. I think we need to relook into that infrastructure and create pretty close to your entrance and exit. That's what I just a thought on this platform.
So one last question. Can because they are coming from the associate, person can go for a walk individually without mingling with the team? Can he go for a cycling with mask where there is not mingling with the people?
Just on the previous question, again, as I said, it is predominantly droplet infection, not an airborne infection. So there are blowers like fans, etc., which blow away the surfaces, then they can spread rather than air conditioners. Probably air conditioners don't have that kind of blowing capacity, and probably it is better than using fans or anything. That is one point. And answering him, if he is wanting to take a good walk where there is not much of a high density population, it's very welcome. You have to choose such areas where there is less density of population or people don't walk in groups. You can walk alone, it's very well welcome, and cycling is very good. But again, there may not be need for any mask for such such people who take a walk. But try and not go into the parks where there are a lot of people walking in groups. Avoid those kind of things, and then use your own streets if it is very, nowadays at least during lockdown period, all streets are very free. So you can walk on your streets alone. That kind of thing is better. Other day in Mumbai there was one picture in a very busy street which was completely empty. A peacock was dancing nicely on the road. That was on the WhatsApp. So if it is very clear road, you can as well walk alone. That's very welcome.
But Chef, I have an objection. In fact, though medically you allow us to go out, but considering the lockdown, we are not supposed to go out. So, so then we should tell people that.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's true.
So
that's
we are talking after lockdown, but during lockdown, don't go into the streets. That is right. So
yes.
Probably if you have some space in the house, you should use that space to doing walking, or if you are having some treadmill or something, that would be ideal way to do a walk, or have a stationary bicycle, then that is good.
And considering Badri and Chef, I'm sure I think this discussion doesn't end here, because we need to create a lot of SOPs and new SOPs come into the picture. A lot of COVID 2019 protocols should also come into our organizational. I'm sure the HR policies might have tweaked lightly, because a lot of things will add to our admin policies. So I'm sure we will have multiple discussions and come back to the doctors who are sitting with us, and we'll certainly take, as you said, Badri was telling do's and don'ts. I'm saying from the background we all can work as a team for next couple of months to bring this into one platform. That will be very easy for other people to read as a reckoner, because the doctors are advising what to use, what not to use, and how do we commute and all stuff. I think they are very clear in their communication. We will take this discussion to the next level offline within our conference calls, and then we'll come back to them. That's
just to add to the exercise point which he said, probably as I said, in lockdown period you may not be able to go out. So ideally do some simple yoga. So as I shown in my slide, Surya Namaskar is the easiest to learn, and then the best exercise to follow. But you don't need any equipments for such things. And then if you have just some weights, do some muscle strengthening exercise. They are very good at home.
So before
sure.
I don't want this kind of situation to happen, but if situation demand, or it happened like one of our associate got infected and then he got recovered. So after how many days we should allow that person to work from our office?
See, in mild cases, the symptoms generally last for around 7 to 12 days. In severe cases, the symptoms generally last for around 14 days. So to declare a patient that he is not infectious, and for him to be allowed into the organization, should ideally do an RT-PCR, that is the test which is done for diagnosis. So you do, according to the Indian guidelines as on today, you do an RT-PCR test again 2 times, which are repeated 24 hours apart. And if both of these tests turn negative, that means that the patient has become infectious and they can be allowed into the organization.
So do we need to get any kind of a certification? Do we need to ask from the employee that you certificate, then you are allowed? What is your recommendation?
So you can meet a doctor. See, in mild cases, generally sometimes we don't do testing also. Suppose a person has not traveled or has not come in contact with the COVID case. If it's a mild respiratory infection, generally sometimes we do not do any screening also for this RT-PCR also. The screening with the diagnostic test is done in severe cases actually. So in these cases where you are not actually doing screening, the patient's fever should have subsided at least 2 or 3 days. The patient should have been afebrile, his cough and the sputum, breathlessness, everything should have subsided. Maybe after 3 or 4 days after these symptoms subside, he is fit to be allowed into the organization.
I think on a policy perspective, they need to inform the HR or your facilities before getting it a permission into your office. Maybe that's the way.
At least 3 days, minimum of 3 days.
Just to add on to that, if somebody recovered from the disease, then I think the testing report, as Dr. Vishwanath suggested, 2 negative reports taken 24 hours apart, the report should be good enough.
The report is plays a very vital role
Yeah.
in allowing the employee to work
Yes.
from the
Yeah, for
office.
all those patients who are hospitalized,
Sir.
it is the responsibility of the healthcare organization. Now it is a criteria for discharges. Before discharge, they do two tests to ensure that they are negative on the two occasions, and then they will send them. So the discharge summary would clearly mention to you that they have been admitted, they have so-and-so disease, they recovered and they have been insured, and then only they have sent home. So if you have that kind of documents, I think it is worthwhile reviewing all those and then admitting them into the workplace.
It's only for the hospitalized patient. If a person is not hospitalized, generally we take account of the symptoms. If the patients have symptoms have subsided for 3 days or so, we take them as
So
non-infectious.
in generic, somebody travels, 14th, 15th day he come to office. So an ideal scenario is he is not affected. 14 days he come from abroad. So till the time we get a notification or advisory from the government body like you and the government saying that 14 days, 15th day he can come to office,
Yes.
straight forward, do a thermal screening and come inside. So thermal screening is also recommended for all the corporates. What do you say? Is it necessary at this point? If I'm right, sir, correct me.
Thermal screening, and as sir has said, asking about the symptoms basically. The
Yeah,
cough,
we asked the symptoms.
running
with
nose,
some-
sneezing.
So might be some declaration at the reception level saying that do you have 1, 2, 3, 4? If
Yes,
do you,
a
do
small
you,
questionnaire is
Yeah.
questionnaire is required where they can self what is it, declare saying
Yes.
that I don't have this, then I am allowed to work in the office. So I think this
Yeah,
is
of everything, I think the self-declaration of symptoms and not allowing people who have symptoms, hand washing and the respiratory, these three things will play a very important role in preventing the spread in the organization.
We'll take one question from Mr. Vamshi Shankar Pinapala.
sir.
He's saying what are the precautions to be taken for salespeople? Probably he means that salespeople travel a lot.
I know.
They'll be visiting multiple people and strangers and all. So same principles as what we spoke earlier, that they have to take precautions when they are meeting any stranger. Always there is a possibility that he would have had infection, or he would have been on incubation period, or he would have been exposed to a contact, or he would have been with somebody who is in quarantine. So all these possibilities, all salespeople have to keep in mind when they go and meet any strangers, because when they meet the strangers, if they take these precautions, the possibility of spread from them, if at all it is there, is less likely. So I think they have to take all these precautions, and if you are meeting an unknown person, please wear a mask and talk to them.
Sir,
One important thing when a person is wearing mask is, a lot of people think that wearing a mask will totally protect them from the virus.
Correct.
So what they do is they wear a mask and they do not follow other precautions. They don't wash their hands, they don't follow respiratory etiquette also. So, and they try to touch the outside surface of the mask with the hand actually. So nobody should touch an outside surface of the mask with the hand actually. They should just take it off, from the
is a
ears, they
procedure.
should take it off. There is a procedure for doffing off, that should be done. And then the rest of the precautions also need to be followed. Hand washing and other respiratory hygiene. Because a lot of people we see that they touch the outside surface of
True, sir. I think
mask.
even I have
They
noticed.
keep touching like this. Every time you see a person wearing a mask, they keep touching.
And also maintain a distance of at least 1 to 2 meters when you have met a stranger. Don't go very close and then do conversation with them. So maintaining a little distance is also a good idea to employ when you are
avoid
meeting
this
strangers.
social gathering. We typically, our IT companies like, if you say DLF or Deloitte, if you see pretty close to your office, thousands of people come from your main gate, it might be your car, it might be your two-wheeler, people come from a pedestrian. So the main point is the people enter through one gate, thousands of people then go to the lift lobby, and from the lift lobby they go to the reception. So there are multiple areas they have to cross through. So we were just wondering like what all the standard procedures we do start from the gate itself. I'm sure they will be coming from a common transport, somebody in a metro, somebody has carpooling. As sir was rightly mentioning, reduce the carpooling to an extent. So we were wondering that, at the main entrance like your AAG hospital, so the car comes, so we just do a sanitization, come in, park our car and come to a lift, or do you suggest that the lift also should have a standard protocol, like only it's a 15 lift car, so only 5 people should, it's a best practice we need to follow, because this is all IT companies, a lot of people get in a lift of 20 people, I'm sure the 20 people actually go in a packed mode. So that also actually is a concern for us. So some rules will also speak to the developers, the bigger developers, and say that lift should only be 10 people. It helps, right? Is it the right way we are thinking, sir?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
First is, I think you should not open the office en bloc for all the employees.
Correct.
You should take a slow increase in your employees as you look at the epidemic, what is happening to it. Please don't just open the office and ask everybody to come in. Plan it well before. During this lockdown period itself, you have to plan how you are going to open it. You first allow essential people who will be allowed, then your essential service people should be allowed.
Sure.
So do a complete workout plan, how they have to come, which I think you should not start with 100%, but at least only 20% of the people should start working in. And for this 20 people, you need to have a strategy how they will come in. The simple strategy is like when we go for a grocery shop, there is a square drawn and then you stand at a distance.
True, sir.
Social distancing across is the key. Please understand that is the easily employable tool there. So whenever they are entering, everywhere they come in a queue at a distance. That is the most important thing. And if they are coming in the cars, then they park the car. Don't, as I said, no carpooling. 1 or 2 people maximum will come in a car. They park properly. They come near the lift and have a long queue at a long distance.
With a distance.
And then minimum people enter into the lift. So there is a lift etiquette also. The moment first person enters, they goes to the extreme corner. The other person go to the extreme corner. Then the second person in the center, 2 people, and third. So only 3 rows if it is a long lift.
Yeah,
they stand in that order, and that has to be trained them to be followed, or a lift operator should train them to move in that direction and stand separately. Of course, they have to follow all those.
We'll do that, sir. I think
the signages are very, very important.
Signages are very, very important across the your institution. You have to place at every level. Most important is the hand wash hygiene, then respiration, and how do you dispose your tissues, and how do you follow the food principles, and also how you maintain the distance. So these are the handouts you have to prepare.
You asked about the on-site training. Regarding all these precautions and all.
Correct.
So probably you can make a small video thing regarding the hand wash, and everything can be circulated, email or WhatsApp.
We'll do that, sir. I think we'll take a...
In terms of training, there's a company called SkillPro. They are actually created an app which is already approved by a department of... so there's an app already available. It's called CASE. CASE is Corona and Safety for Everyone. Okay. So this app is already developed. All we need to do is we need to get into the app, and there's a learning module available in that.
Okay.
So there are 3 objectives in this app. One, we have too much of information available on social media and across all other platforms. So this app gives us the authentic information which is validated from the government. That is one. The second is the online course available for people about the corona and all those practices. There are videos in that module about the hand wash and personal hygiene and so on and so forth. A lot of information. And third is that gives the certification to the people. So right now, Satya, as I informed you earlier, we got the access for 100 people. Good. So we can share with our FM fraternity. We can announce, or you can send an email to all our FMs, that whoever is interested, they can use that module for free of cost, and then they experience and get certificate. So if they find useful, then they can communicate the rest of the organizations, and then
as Vishwanath Garu was rightly, Dr. Vishwanath Garu was rightly telling, maybe a small bite of a video on the practices what doctors were mentioning.
So this tool has
because that is a good idea to have that app, but you have to customize to your institution. How is your entry? How is your lift placed? How your thing? So it is worthwhile to prepare a small video of your own organization in this period, and what are you expecting your employees to follow when they start coming in. You should float them by net to their homes. They review all that and then come and then follow that, because it will be slightly different from what they have been following right now.
Correct.
So it's good for you to prepare the tool and then send them individually to them.
Great. We'll do that, sir. That's a wonderful suggestion. In fact.
That's what we are requesting now.
The same video can be shown to our visitors as well.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. That's good. Good.
That's it from our end, sir. I think I'm sure. I think they are also not there. I think Zoom they are already left. Yeah. So thanks, doctor. I think we took a lot of your valuable time, all of you. We've been waiting for this session because a lot of assumptions within the fraternity. How do we operate? I'm sure. Next 15 days are, as you said, the lockdown is going to end. From there, I think how do we operate is the bigger $1 million question for all the business heads.
No, don't anticipate anything whether the lockdown will end or not.
Yeah,
we don't know.
We never know.
We don't know. We are studying the whole scenario, and I think government is taking day by day decisions. At this point, the most important decision Prime Minister announced today is on Sunday night at 9 o'clock we'll all light lamps in our house like on the Diwali day, and make one common intent in our mind that we'll have to be all safe, and this epidemic should go away. So that is the immediate step. I think everybody should participate in it. A common intent for such a large population, when it is made, it has its own effect, and it will have a favorable effect, is what is the thought process of our Indian philosophy. I think it's a very good opportunity to participate and do that.
We'll do, doctor. I think we are only giving a message to the complete IT fraternities today. I think the one thing doctors were very keen is just follow the instructions of the governance with saying social distancing. I think this is one thing they're talking about, social distancing. So let's all together, I mean, as a citizen of, responsible citizen of India, I'm sure we should also follow this. And from an IT industry perspective, I think once everything gets open, I'm still, as Dr. Sir was rightly mentioning, never forget that this pandemic doesn't end with 50 in 1 month. It never know about the volumes actually speaks. So I think we should continue this discipline for next 6 months to 1 year. I think the discipline always is good to be hygiene. So I really appreciate doctors.
One last point is you should take this opportunity of the lockdown period and spend good time with family, which probably you will not get again. So getting very closer to the family, and some of them who have any addictions, it's the right opportunity to get de-addicted. And people who are not doing regular exercises, they can get into an exercise mode and then make it a habit, because anything which is done for more than 3 weeks becomes a habit. So this is the time, if you do it continuously for 3 weeks, it becomes a new healthy habit. I think it's very important for everybody to utilize it this time for good of their health and family.
These precautions in broad apply for all the viral infections, not only for corona. I think this corona has educated a lot of us in lot of aspects actually. So we need to follow all these precautions in spite of this corona being a pandemic being over in maybe a few months to come.
True, doctor. I think we'll take this opportunity, this 3 weeks, doctor said, I think the new habits actually come into the existence, that you exercise or social, your family, bonding with your family, all stuff actually, it's a new thing for the complete world now. Lockdown giving a lot of lessons, on the personal hygiene and your personal discipline also.
In fact, work from home has given us a lot of ownership, and also it has a self-discipline, because when we go to office, normally it's different. We have liberty to interact with our employees and colleagues, go chit chat and do work. And for anything, any help also, we can go to them and see. But when we are working, we are learning new techniques, we are using new tools in communicating to them, and we are also habituating to the self-discipline, because yes, at the end of the day, there is a commitment, there is a deliverables, and which we need to do. So we are, as you rightly said, not only on the awareness, but it has also improved our self-discipline. This virus, one way we should thanks to Corona.
No, IT employees are known for spending all that they earn at the end of the month. This is what is the general perception. So I think tough times are going to come. So you should plan very carefully, save a lot of money. You should get into the old model of saving your money for the bad times. I think that is the new learning all the IT employees should make.
One of your slide also talks about a pay cuts. I think it's all your perception towards how you want to come out. I think appreciate, doctor. I think that also gives a mindset to the people that people are not used to the pay cuts. We never had this culture within this continent. I'm sure. I think this is also something which people have to seriously forego some things. Instead of losing a job, a pay cut is also a welcoming note. People should come forward and say, hey, let's welcome.
It should be taken in a right perspective.
Right perspective, sir.
Okay,
that's it, doctor. I think.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Yes, madam.
Thank you.